I've been driving big rigs for over 15 years, coast to coast, day runs, graveyard hauls, you name it. After a while, the road starts to feel like home, more than anywhere I park. I used to think I'd seen everything there was to see out there. Fog banks that move like they're alive. Ghost towns that aren't on any map. Once, outside Amarillo, I swore I saw a man walking down the center line with a suitcase in one hand and a lit road flare in the other. No car in sight for miles. I figured it was just fatigue. Too many hours, too little sleep. Your brain starts filling in the blanks. But after what happened last month near Route 47, I don't question those sights anymore. It was supposed to be a simple overnight. Georgia to Missouri. Same stretch I'd run a dozen times. I wasn't behind on hours. Trailer was light. Weather was clear. Still, I felt off that day. Not sick exactly, just disconnected. Like I was running someone else's route. Didn't help that I'd barely slept the night before. Cheap motel, thin walls, and somebody next door watching war movies at full blast until nearly sunrise. I checked out early and sat in the cab of the truck with a styrofoam cup of coffee that tasted like melted plastic. Watched the truck stop lights blink off one by one as the sun came up. I should have felt calm, but my chest had that weird tightness again, like my body knew something before I did. Dispatch had left a note, scribbled on the back of an old log sheet, said there was construction up near the Kentucky line and I should reroute through 47. Local traffic only, but clear. No signature, no initials, just the message and a timestamp. I remember staring at it longer than I needed to. I knew most of the alternate highways up that way. But Route 47? That didn't ring a bell. Still, I tossed it on the passenger seat like I always do. Told myself I'd check the map if the GPS cut out. I've been driving long enough to trust my gut. But that morning, I ignored it. I merged onto the highway, made it through the first 100 miles like usual. The sun climbed higher, traffic got lighter, and soon I was on the connector road that would eventually lead me to the Route 47 detour. But that's when things started to change. The farther I went, the more that uneasiness from earlier crept back in. I told myself it was just the isolation, that weird stretched out silence you get on old country roads. But something about this stretch felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the trees seemed too dense, like they were leaning in a little more with every mile. The sun had been out when I turned onto Route 47, but now the light felt dimmer, filtered, like something overhead was dulling it on purpose. About an hour in, I realized I hadn't passed a single car going the other way. No homes, no turnoffs, no shoulder wide enough to pull over. The road just kept going, narrower and darker, like it was guiding me somewhere. The GPS had given up, just spinning. Phone showed one bar, but nothing would load. I cracked the window, and the air that hit my face was stale, damp. It smelled like wet wood and mildew, like I was driving through a place that hadn't been disturbed in years. I leaned forward, squinting into the gray stretch ahead. No curves, no signage, just more of that same narrowing, tree-choked road that seemed to press inward the longer I drove. Even the horizon felt like it was folding in on itself. And then that's when I saw it. A flicker of neon in the distance, low and hazy, like a match being struck in the dark. I slowed down, half expecting it to vanish. But the glow got stronger. I pulled up close, and there it was, sitting crooked at a bend in the road that didn't show up on my map. A gas station. Run down. Crooked sign above the canopy. GA blank and go. Like gas and go without the S. The S and N had long since blown out. One pump leaned sideways like someone hit it and never fixed it. The pavement was cracked and bleeding weeds. An old payphone dangled off the side of the building by its cord. The whole place looked like it hadn't served fuel since the early 90s. But the lights were on, and I was almost on E. I pulled in slowly, tires crunching the gravel. I eased up next to the closest pump, the one that looked the least likely to explode. The pump clicked like it still worked, so I swiped my card. Surprisingly, it went through. The screen lit up with a flicker and started counting gallons. Inside, there was a guy behind the counter, mid-60s, heavyset, trucker hat pulled low. He didn't look up at first, just stared at a tiny TV on the back shelf. But there was no picture, just static and white noise. When I walked in, he said without turning, "Coffee's fresh. Restrooms out back." His voice sounded too perfect. Not robotic, just rehearsed, like a line in a loop. I grabbed a bottle of water. When I walked up to the counter, he finally looked up, and I froze. His eyes didn't match his face. They were too bright, almost like backlit glass. They stared straight through me, like he was trying to remember who I used to be. He didn't say anything else, just rang me up. $1 even, no tax. I slid a bill across the counter. His hand brushed mine, ice cold, like metal left out overnight. I turned to leave, but something made me pause. Behind him on a corkboard were dozens of Polaroids, all truckers, all standing next to their rigs, smiling. But the faces, they were all the same person. Me. I backed out of there fast, tossed the bottle on the seat, and peeled out of the parking lot like I was escaping something. I didn't stop until I was on familiar roads, where traffic hummed and my GPS found itself again. I told myself it was some backwoods trap, a prank, maybe even a hallucination. But deep down, I knew better. Because the next morning, I found a Polaroid in my glove box. Same truck, same station. Me, smiling. Only this time, I was wearing a jacket I hadn't packed. The station hasn't shown up again the same way. Not like that. But it's followed me. 2 nights ago, I found a folded receipt tucked in my pocket from GA Blank and Go. I hadn't been anywhere near a gas station that day, and the receipt wasn't crumpled. It was smooth, like it had just been printed. I don't remember putting it in my pocket. A week before that, I saw the name etched into the bathroom mirror at a Pilot gas station in Iowa. Looked like it had been scratched into the glass with a key. Right underneath it read, "We're still open." And just this morning, when I filled up at a Love station off I-64, the pump glitched. The screen flashed once, then showed a new zip code I didn't recognize. I looked it up. It's not real. I haven't told anyone. Not dispatch. Not the other drivers. What would I say? Hey, I found a ghost gas station that prints receipts and leaves photos of me in my own truck. They'd laugh me off the circuit, so I don't mention it. But today something changed. I popped the hood to check a rattle before starting my route. And inside, scratched into the metal of the engine cover, were 3 words: gas and go. Only the S and N were barely their E, half-etched, like they'd been scraped too shallow to stick, just like the sign. The marks weren't rusted. They were fresh, still sharp, and there was a dent on the inside of the cover, like someone, or something, closed it from underneath the hood.